Hello, dear friends. I've always been fascinated by the full card in the tarot because it symbolizes the bohemian, romantic, and rebellious artist who breaks away from established norms. Opinion piece: The Fool's Journey, Spontaneity, Extravagance, Playing Dumb, Zero Arcanum, Divine Madness, New Beginnings, Anti-establishment, Unpredictable change. Let's start. It is said President Trump is representing the fool archetype in the tarot, a fool who knows too much and plays dumb to hide it, which doesn't mean he's a messiah. A Pew Research Center survey answers the question of why President Trump plays dumb when it comes to the existence of extraterrestrial life and doesn't promote UFO disclosure. According to Representative Eric Burlison, the upcoming congressional hearing on UFOs could mark a watershed moment in government transparency. JP has shared a video with approximate locations of oval-shaped space arcs in the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, according to Dr. Michael Sala. Similarly, an Argentine citizen confessed that he voted for Milei, whom some colloquially call the Crazy One, for his disruptive style and strident rhetoric, because he no longer trusted any traditional politicians. So, seeing no other viable option, he decided to go with the Crazy One and see what would happen. In general, many voters stated that they elected Milei because their distrust of traditional politicians was such that they preferred to opt for an option perceived as extravagant or outside the system, hoping that change could emerge precisely from the unpredictable. This is a tantamount to taking a leap of faith into the unknown, but this impulse does not always guarantee success. Definition: The Fool's Journey is a fundamental metaphor in the tarot that describes the symbolic journey through the 22 major arcana. This journey represents the process of spiritual transformation and self-discovery in the human being. Each tarot card symbolizes a different stage of this path, which ranges from the innocence and beginnings of the Fool, the Zero Arcana, or to the fulfillment and fullness of being in the world, which is the 12th Arcana. This archetype of the Fool represents someone who breaks the mold and ignores conventions, but whose behavior may have a calculated purpose or a depth of knowledge that is not clearly perceived by others. This highlights both his defiance of canons, his eccentric behavior, and the suspicion that beneath this appearance lies a more complex intention or hidden knowledge behind the character's disruptive facade. Through his journey, the Fool faces trials and lessons that reflect the challenges of personal growth and the integration of new teachings into each individual's life. This journey is characterized as an initiatory path, where the human being acquires wisdom by facing archetypical situations represented by each of the major arcana. If the Fool completes their journey, he returns transformed, with spiritual rebirth having integrated the necessary lessons to become an initiate, someone who understands his existence from a wiser and deeper perspective. The Fool and the Hero. Although the Fool's Journey and the Hero's Journey share similar archetypical roots and structures, they present distinct or different approaches to personal growth and transformation. The Fool Tarot card focuses on inner searching, openness to experience, and spiritual transformation, so its process is more personal and introspective, centered on internal evolution and the integration of acquired wisdom. In contrast, the hero's journey is more focused on action, adventure, and the contribution of learning to the community. It deals with transformation through overcoming trials in the outside world and obtaining a gift of wisdom useful to the community. The hero faces enemies, crosses thresholds, receives help from mentors, and returns changed to his place of origin, bringing value to others. Although they may overlap and share certain characteristics of transgression and humor, the full tarot card is a symbol of reset and existential openness. The trickster is the agent of deception and the radical disruption of order, and the harlequin is the humorous mediator between chaos and order. The trickster is present in many cultures and is known as the trickster or deceiver. He breaks rules, deceives, subverts the established order, and reveals hidden truths through satire, irony, and dark humor. His behavior can be chaotic and disruptive, but it has a creative function. It demystifies and masks the powerful and renews rigid structures, although sometimes his motives are selfish or capricious. Unlike the trickster, the harlequin tends to have less of a real rapture and less moral ambiguity. His humor is less corrosive and more integrated into the social game. Although his origins lie in the Italian commedia dell'arte, the harlequin symbolizes the jester or joker. He is associated with humor, cunning, and agility. He is a theatrical and festive character, a bearer of wisdom disguised as mockery, who uses wit to amuse, move, or criticize. Persecution. The Fool of the Tarot shows detachment or disregard for established rules and norms, and is pursued by furious sheepdogs who try to force him back into the fold of domesticated sheep. They are the agents plural, smiths of the Matrix, trying to destroy anyone who is awakening. They symbolize social pressure or critical voices from within that seek to curb the fool's recklessness. They bark, therefore we ride, as Don Quixote de la Mancha said. In the end, the fool will not be judged by his madness, but by the long-term outcome of his actions, because it is very difficult to understand the extravagances of the present. The Fool card primarily symbolizes freedom, new beginnings, adventure, spontaneity, and innocence. It represents the beginning of a new journey, full of possibilities, and the willingness to leap into the unknown without being limited by fear, expectations, or social conventions. The Fool invites us to take a leap of faith and trust our own instincts, encouraging us to leave behind restrictions and explore life with an open mind. Although the Fool appears to act thoughtlessly or randomly, the card also contains the possibility of a certain wisdom or hidden knowledge. He carries with him everything necessary for the journey, but doesn't always show full awareness of his own capabilities or intentions. The Fool may appear naive or disinterested, but in reality he has deeper motivation or knowledge, embodying a kind of wise madness. Divine madness. The concept of divine madness appears in many spiritual traditions and is often associated with enlightened figures who employ outrageous or unpredictable behaviors to stir, teach, and awaken others, challenging hypocrisy and social or religious conventions. Drukpa Kulei's divine madness signifies enlightened wisdom, expressed through unconventional behaviors, with the strategic use of outrage and transgression to teach and free others from ignorance, and the transformation of emotions and desires, rather than their suppression, as a path to enlightenment. It refers to his extravagant, provocative, and unconventional behavior within the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, framed as a manifestation of wisdom and spiritual fulfillment. Drupal Kulli was a legendary 16th century yogi known for employing unorthodox methods, humor, irreverence, and the conscious breaking of social and religious norms as part of his teaching. This kind of madness does not imply insanity, but rather a radical freedom that signals the overcoming of the bonds of ego and ignorance, understood in Buddhism as the denial of the enlightened nature inherent in all beings. Instead of repressing desires and emotions, Kulli transforms them and uses them as tools for liberation and enlightenment, seeking to help human beings transcend the universal psychosis of ignorance. Reset news. I trust the coalition will do the right thing. It may not always seem like the best way forward they propose or the way they choose to execute the plan, but they see the bigger picture and we don't. There must be trust and faith in this spiritual warfare. In quotes, a revolution is coming, a revolution that will be peaceful if we are wise enough, compassionate if we care enough, successful if we are lucky enough, but a revolution that will come whether we want it or not. We can influence its character. We cannot alter its inevitability, said President John Fitzgerald Kennedy. Is Admiralty law go? When the time comes after the EBS, all rules, regulations, ordinances, code laws, court decisions, and policies that do not comply with common law will have to be rewritten or simply declared null and void. The common law must be known to all because the current Admiralty law is not the authority according to Dalbom. On Friday, July 18, 2025, President Trump signed the Cryptocurrency Genius Act, paving the way for a global financial reset. The law was claimed to have initiated a financial revolution. According to Tucker Carlson, the quantum financial system QFS is being quietly implemented worldwide. While traditional bankers stand firm, the new digital system takes control behind the scenes, completely secure and transparent. The QFS is a high-tech network invulnerable to any type of hacking or manipulation. It doesn't use blockchain like cryptocurrencies, but rather a much more advanced quantum technology, accompanied by artificial intelligence and satellite security. Every transaction is backed by real value. Every digital credit in the system is backed by gold, silver, oil, or other real assets. No more empty numbers on a screen. Every figure has backing. This revolutionary system is already being quietly tested. More than 130 countries are connected to the QFS network. In recent months, test transfers between central banks have been carried out under the QFS protocol. The new gold-backed currencies have been launched, and even international payment channels have been replaced with SWIFT. All of this, of course, without fanfare to avoid panic and cabal sabotage. But the effects will become publicly visible. Ordinary citizens will witness the changes. Banks will announce technical improvements, perhaps brief service interruptions, and then suddenly the new system will be openly operating. Money will become safe, clean, and instantaneous. The QFS is the pilot of the financial freedom that awaits us, and it is already here to replace the old system forever. Fiat currencies are collapsing across the board. Gold has broken all restraints, and the long-awaited global financial reset has entered an irreversible phase. What was ridiculed as a conspiracy is now a fact. Central banks are accumulating gold, and the pillars of the old financial system are crumbling. This is not a drill. It is the collapse of a hoax unfolding live. This is not the great global reset of Davos. That system was based on control, digital identity, programmable money, universal dependency. But the ambition is failing. The real reset is based on real value, tangible assets, decentralized systems. The elite is panicking because their tricks are no longer working. Their currencies are being rejected, their central banks are being exposed, and their monopoly is going up in smoke. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.